Hey guys, welcome to another lecture. In this lecture, we'll focus on the next part, that is configuring Azure DNS. Right. So when it comes to DNS, we have both public DNS and private DNS. Let's first understand the difference between both of them, and then we'll get into the working session. All right. So say you have a domain name called, you know, example.shop.com, or you can say. All right. So whenever any user from internet hits it, he lands onto the page that is basically linked to this domain name. All right, say for I mean, we need to buy this domain in a domain register, and I mean that would be some amount. We have to pay it to own a domain, and then we need to add a record and CNAME record in this one to basically redirect it to the web servers that are behind it. All right. So this is where, the public DNS comes in. In general, we do this at domain registers, a website, but Azure provides Azure DNS, public DNS, wherein we can edit all of these things in Azure portal itself. I mean, this particular part. How we can do this is basically, for every domain name, the domain register provides us name servers. These name servers actually redirect our traffic to this particular thing. So whenever any external user hits this example.com, it goes to name server, and name server will look up to these a record and CNAME record, and then it points the traffic to the web server, whatever, wherever we host it. It can be on Azure, AWS, or anywhere basically, or even in your on-prem. All right. So this is how the public domain works. When it comes to private domain, that's basically within the VNet. You will have a private DNS zone, or you can say we can assume it this way to avoid any confusion. The private DNS will be outside, but it will be linked to this VNet. So that, I mean, we can host private DNS for any website. I mean, currently, if you want to buy Microsoft.com, it's not possible, right? I mean, because that's already the domain that Microsoft had already purchased. So you cannot actually go ahead and buy it. But you want your employees to basically use the website that you have hosted on Microsoft.com. I mean, you want to basically uh, limit the usage, or you want to restrict the usage of your employees. In that case, what you can do is you can create a private DNS zone with Microsoft.com, and the from the VMs, I mean, you may have two subnets, and you know in one subnet we have web server, and this private DNS zone Microsoft.com is linked to this one. All right. So from the other VNet, if you search Microsoft.com, it will not go to the public Microsoft.com domain. Instead, it redirects to this web server. So this is how private DNS works. All right. So this is the primary difference between public DNS and private. Private is nothing but you that only works within the network. It doesn't work outside the network, that is the internet. When it comes to public domain, you can access it from the internet. All right, now let's go into the working session. Yeah, let's go ahead and create a web server that is having any simple website. We'll use nginx to basically host a simple website. Let's just go ahead and create a VM. I will be using this one. Let me give it a name, web server, and yeah, I'll leave these as it is, I'll use this. I'll also allow 80 because we will be hosting a web service. I'm using standard HDD because it helps reduce my cost. Um, and let's proceed to networking. Uh, so a new virtual network is getting created, and I'll name this. Okay, I'll use default in this one. Yeah. Yeah, it will take a couple of minutes to basically create. Meanwhile, let's just explore a sample domain. So I have this domain, public domain, kaushik.shop. Currently, if you try to go to that, it doesn't work because there's nothing basically hosted on this one. All right. So if you take a look at DNS records, there are nothing, forwarding nothing, and then name servers. This is what I'm talking about. So these are the name servers which GoDaddy has provided me. That is, whenever I use any A record or CNAME record, uh, first the request comes to this, and then it processes those requests, and then the traffic is sent to the backend. All right. So yeah, this is done. So let's just get into the VM and install Nginx first. Okay, let's just refresh the page. Yeah, let me just update all. Yeah, this should be done. Let's go ahead and create a public DNS, or we can basically search it over here. Public DNS. Yeah, DNS zones. I'll create one. I'll just give it web server a name. Okay, it has to be this one. Shop. All right. Zone it and nothing. I'll just create. So this is done. So if I just go to, we should see Nginx landing page. Yeah. Meanwhile, this is done. So if this is the public DNS zone that we have just created. And as you can see, Azure is giving these 4 name servers. So to basically use these name servers, we need to copy each one of them. And here we need to change the name servers. I'll use my own name server and I can basically add each one of them. And remember, the trailing dot is important for the name servers. So yeah, this is basically GoDaddy's configuration. So it doesn't accept a trailing dot. But in general, Azure, right, it provides this one because this is how the configuration designed in Azure. All right, so now we have done this. So if you just go to DNS management and record set, there is nothing. There would be nothing over here. It's just default name servers. All right, now what we need to, let's just add a record. IP address. Let's just give this one. Yeah, a record has been set. Let's create another record. This time we would give it a name called www. That means the domain would be www.kaushik.shop, and it should be a CNAME record, and the alias would be the a record, that is kaushik.shop. And let's add it. And we have successfully added this one. The configuration is done. Now we have to wait for at least 10 to 15 minutes for the name servers to basically mm, propagate the new a record across globally. So I'll come back once that is done. All right, so let's just check it out now. Kaushik.shop. So yeah, this is pointing out to the Nginx basic web server that we have hosted. So yeah, this is a DNS checker where if we just you know type kaushik.shop and search, yeah, this is the IP address of the VM where we have hosted our DNS server. So let's just verify. Yeah, 172.210.76.94. Yep. Now this is how the public DNS service of Azure works. And let me know if you have any questions in the comment sections. I'll try to answer all of them. Then let's move on to private DNS. So now if I just go to microsoft.com, so this is the basic web page of it. All right, and if I just you know do the same thing over here, microsoft.com, it should basically give me, yeah. So this is the web page, like HTML of the web page of microsoft.com. Now that's huge. That will be huge. Now let's just create one private DNS zone, and let's use the same VNet, and let's give it microsoft.com. Yep. Okay, this is not allowed. All right, let's just try out with some basic page. Now Microsoft is not allowing us to create private DNS zone of Microsoft. All right, this is allowed. So this should be pretty quick. It doesn't take much time to create a private DNS zone. And meanwhile, let's go to our VNet and create one more subnet. Let's call it testing. We are using this for testing purpose. Yeah, that is done. Private DNS deployment is done, and this is also done. All right, let's go to the private. Yeah, this is private DNS zone. Before we link it up, let's just do the same thing with google.com. So yeah, this is the okay. www.google.com. So yeah, this is the web, HTML of the Google landing page. Now let's link it. Yeah, here is the virtual network link. I'm gonna add it to, I'll say, website, and I'm gonna add it to this virtual network. Enable auto registration. So auto registration is something that, whenever a new VM creates or an existing VM deletes, a record for that is created. We'll see how that works. So this is now created, and we should see that a record for the existing virtual machine has been created. Right, so by the time this is done, let's go ahead and create another VM from where we will be trying to use the private DNS zone of google.com. This time we'll go into a different subnet. Testing, we'll call this a testing machine. We'll just leave everything as it is. Yeah, we do not need HTTPS on this one. Oh, in the networking, we should be using the testing subnet. Yep. All right, we can go ahead and create this. So yeah, the web server is now has the private IP address, that is 10.0.0.4. This is the 10.0.0. This is the subnet of the default one where the web server is hosted. I mean, we have named it web server. This VM is done. Now if you just refresh, we should see one more testing VM. you know this is nothing but the auto registration. If we do not enable these records, doesn't work. I mean, now with the auto registration, to reach out to this VM, you can use testing.google.com. Then you will reach out to this VM. If you use webserver.google.com, you will reach out to this VM. So this is how the internal private DNS works. Similarly, when we have done the private link service, we have used private DNS zone, right? So in that case, when you use the storage account's name, it will be pointing to the NIC that is hosted inside the VM, inside the subnet. Sorry, that is linked to the storage account using private link. I mean, the private endpoint is linked to this one. So that's how it works. Now, yeah, let's just create another record. A record, and let's give it an IP of 10.0.0.4. Now let's create a CNAME record alias google.com. Yeah. So now let's go into the another VM, that is testing VM, and log in into it and see how it resolves google.com now. So yeah, now you see google.com is resolving to nginx website. So this way, if you want to host any websites that are internal to the organization, you do not need to host it publicly. because you do not want them to be accessed publicly. Some internal sites, say for example, some documentation websites or any HR websites that are generally internal to the organization, you can use the Azure Private DNS to basically have a domain created of your choice, and you do not have to pay for this domain. And then you can link it to any backend web servers that are hosting it. So this is the use of private DNS and public DNS. If you have any questions, please ask it in the comment section. I'll try to answer all of them. That's it for today's lecture. Thank you.